Welcome back, my friend. This is the Shannon Blanchard podcast. I am your host, bestie for the rusty, guide in starting and scaling the business of your dreams and creating a life that feels lucky every single day of the week. Now, today's episode is part 2, of course, in the series that I am doing right now on sustainability. So obviously, if you have not checked out part 1, go check that out because we talked in that episode about marketing and how to have a sustainable marketing plan. And that feeds into what we're going to talk about today, which is lead generation. But before I get into that, a quick reminder that I want to tell you is that in the show notes, you will find a link to a form where you can submit any questions that you have. So if you have questions about anything that I'm chatting about or just about entrepreneurship in general, I would love to see your questions. You can ask anonymously and I might answer them in a podcast. Now, like I said, today's episode is all about lead generation. So by the end of this episode, you will have clarity on what lead generation is, what active versus passive lead generation looks like, and how to create a healthy lead generation ecosystem. Now, lead generation is one of those topics that honestly can bring up a feeling of inadequacy. It can kind of bring that twinge of just like, ooh, it's uncomfortable. I feel like it's something that everybody else has figured out and I can't seem to figure out how to get clients. Like I felt that way for the longest time in my business. And I just want to remind you before we even get into any of this, that you are innately capable of getting clients. You can do this. You likely already have everything in place. It's just that things probably need some refining or you need the assurance that what you're doing is correct and you're on the right path and you just have to give it time. But just know you absolutely can do this. Having sustainable leads is absolutely possible for you. And I want this episode to be the thing that helps you make that a reality. And remember, at the end of the day, you and I, we're just two girls running businesses, okay? And I am here to help you feel more confident and to trust yourself in the process. So with all that being said, let's dive in, shall we? Now, first thing right off the bat, when we talk about lead generation, if you haven't heard of that before or it's overwhelming or like, what does that really mean? It just means your system for bringing in leads to your business. You want to have a reliable way of bringing in leads so that you're not questioning and guessing like, am I going to get clients? Am I going to get any inquiries this month? You want to be able to do certain things that you know will bring the results of leads, and not just any leads, might I say, but aligned dream leads that you can't wait to work with. So that's what lead generation is. Now, let's take a look at what unsustainable lead generation looks like in action so you can really see if this is something that you are potentially doing yourself. So some things you could potentially be doing that could be resulting in unsustainable leads would be things like relying on networking alone. So just trying to reach out to people you know, past connections, and hoping that that will get you somewhere. Constantly just trying to cold DM people. Eventually, I say this all the time about cold DMing, you're going to run out of people to cold DM. I'm not a fan of that method. It could be that you are constantly engaging with the same group of people and you're not frequently enough going and searching for new people to be engaging with to sort of cast a wider net. And it also could look like posting in bursts when you feel really confident, you're showing up and then you go completely ghost and quiet. You never show up anymore. Or your content is constantly educating, or you're posting like the trendy type of content, personal stuff, but you are never actually selling to your audience. Like you're never actually directly talking about your services and giving people a clear call to action. So you'll notice with many of the items I just listed off that I said you're doing this thing alone. That is problem number 1, is just having one thing that you are doing and hoping that that's going to be enough to bring in sustainable leads. The second problem is inconsistency. I say it all the time, consistency is king. You guys know it. It doesn't matter if you have the best content in the world, the greatest services. If you only talk about them once a month, it's going to be really hard to get real results from that. So consistency, or inconsistency, I should say, is the second big problem. Now, the goal is to have a healthy lead generation ecosystem where you have multiple small touch points that are working together to bring you consistent, sustainable leads. So to have a healthy lead gen ecosystem, you want to have both active lead generation and passive lead generation happening. So we'll get into what that means, but it's important to know first that your passive lead generation can only be as good as the quality of your active lead generation. So keep that in mind when we talk through active versus passive, okay? So active lead generation includes things like posting consistent, really strong content that is attracting, warming, and converting. That's the kind of content I talk about and I teach in my program, Infatuated. Active lead gen means showing up on your stories, actively pitching your services there, DMing and engaging, building connections with people who are potential clients, engaging with potential clients' content in a really authentic, genuine way. Those are examples of what active lead generation might look like for you if you're an online service provider. Now, what happens as a result of when you have those active lead gen tasks, essentially, and when you are doing those things, it creates the infrastructure that allows the passive lead generation to work for you. Now, one thing I want to say right off the bat, because I know my audience, I know you girls, and I know that you are newer online service providers. You are thinking of starting your business, or you are in the process of starting, you're still establishing yourself within your business. And I know that it's easy to feel in that stage like there's not really a good form of passive lead generation, because that's what I thought for a really long time earlier on in my business, because you will see people like coaches, such as myself, for example. I have things like my free masterclass. That's a passive lead generation system that works for me. This podcast will become something that once I have a library of episodes built up, that will be passive lead gen for me. But I want you to understand that even if you are somebody who is single platform, like if you're just on Instagram or you're newer, you're just starting out, you absolutely can have passive lead generation that works for you. And here are some examples of what that could look like. So the first thing is going to be your content archive, all of the content that you post. That's why I really recommend focusing in, the first 6 months of your business, especially, or if you have made a change in your business, like you've changed your niche, anything about your services, things like that. If you are in either of those situations, I always recommend try to put out as much content as you can for a little while, just to build up a really good library of content. Because when people find your page, find your profile, it could be that you engage with their content, they go to your profile, or they're just searching for, virtual assistant for coaches or whatever it might be, and they see all of your content. That is passive lead gen that's going to work for you if you have quality content. So that is the key here, of course, but that's why I said your passive lead gen is only going to be as good as the quality of your active lead gen. So that's the first thing, is your content archive. Your Instagram bio is another really good one. Having a strong Instagram bio, please put care and attention into, core pieces of messaging like your Instagram bio. If you have a website, then the copy that's on your landing page right there, make that strong, because those are the first things that people will see. And if you clearly state, who you are, who you work with, what you do for them, and what that transformation is that you provide, that's going to work in your favor. That's the first thing, obviously, that people see and helps them determine if they're going to keep looking at the rest of your page. So don't rely on, AI fluff stuff. Really think in your own words how you can hit on those touch points that I just mentioned of who you are, what you do, etc. Now, the next thing is having strong pinned posts and highlights on your page. So I always tell my students to make your pinned posts have a post about your services and going in depth on what you do. Have something about who you work with and what that transformation is. And ideally have a post that's just about you. It's kind of an introductory, here's who I am, give them a bit of background. Have all of that information in the form of pinned posts on your page and in the form of highlights, because again, we want to make sure that no matter where people go on your profile, immediately they can find the information that they are looking for. And the last one I want to mention is if you do happen to have a freebie of some sort, that of course is going to be a great source of passive lead generation. I'm thinking maybe someday I'll do an episode on freebies, because that was one of those things that I always felt like as a virtual assistant, I was like, there's nothing I could create that people would like, but I actually don't agree with that anymore at all. I definitely think you can create a strong freebie. So if you're interested, I could make an episode about that. But of course, a freebie, having some sort of a free resource, is something that can actively work to help you get leads passively within your business. So you can see that all of these passive lead gen touch points that I just talked through are things that if you are keeping up consistently with the active lead gen, then these are the things that will work for you. And if you do become multi-platform, like let's say you start posting on Pinterest or on TikTok, then your passive lead gen is going to also double up because you're on other platforms. So I think these are things, your profile, for example, we don't typically think about that as being lead gen, but it is. And that's why it's so important to really put intentionality into the messaging that you are using in your bio, into your highlights and those pin posts. Like, make that information really, really strong because it will work for you even when you are not actively showing up to create leads in your business. So what you want to have are strong active lead gen practices that then will bring people to your page, to your profile, your website, whatever it might be. And those items, the static items there, will work in your favor. And what brings all of this together into a really healthy lead gen ecosystem is having a strong, clear call to action. So every touch point that a potential client experiences, there should be a clear next step for them to take. If that is booking a discovery call with you, filling out your inquiry form, whatever it might be. But something to keep in mind here is also the quality of your call to action. So something that I will see frequently, especially with new OSPs who don't have websites yet, which is completely fine. I didn't have a website for over a year after I started my business. It's perfectly fine to not have a website when you're starting out. But if you don't have a website, you should still have either a form for people to fill out or a link to schedule a discovery call. I really recommend that you stay away from having a call to action like DM me this to chat or whatever, DM me to talk about how I can help you. You can occasionally use that on like your stories or in a caption or something like that. That's fine. But having that be your primary call to action is going to drastically reduce the number of leads that you're going to bring in. Because think about telling people, if you want to work together, you have to send me a DM. It's just putting a lot of like emotional labor on the lead. And we want to try and make it as easy and frictionless as possible. So don't put DM me in your bio, put a link in there and make sure that the link they click on, they're going to have as few clicks as necessary to get to where they want to go. So just making sure that they don't have to click a bunch of times to get to your inquiry form or to get to your calendar to schedule a call with you. Make it as easy as possible. Hello, beautiful. This is a quick interruption just to tell you that if you haven't seen it already, I have a free workshop called Launch Your Lucky Life, and it's all about the 4 core things that you need to start your business in the online space. I promise you, generating your own income online is really not as far off as you might think it is. From the time I started my business, about 6 months later, I was booked out. My life had completely changed in just a matter of months. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check out the link in the show notes and you can get Launch Your Lucky Life completely for free. So let's do a quick audit of your lead gen ecosystem to see if you have everything in place. And then there's one thing I want to touch on after this audit. The first question is, do you have at least 2 forms of active lead generation? So this is, remember, like engaging with potential clients, consistently finding new people. It's showing up on your stories, posting strong content. And you have at least 2 passive lead gen touch points that will work for you when people find them. So maybe this is a good opportunity to just go check the copy that's in your bio and your pin post, just update and refresh those things to keep them really strong and accurate as to what your current services and offerings are. And then everywhere that your leads might land, do you have a clear call to action for them to take so they know exactly what their next step is? So one thing I want to touch on as you are now going to be setting up or auditing your current lead gen ecosystem is that lead generation, like I said at the beginning of this episode, is one of those topics that it's just so easy for our emotions to get really tangled up in everything that we are doing for lead generation. It's easy to start to feel like, oh, nobody wants to work with me. It's not happening. Why would anybody want to work with me? And immediately we just look for proof that nobody wants to hire us. Nobody's interested. Who do you think you are trying to start this business? Like, our brain just goes in all of these different directions. And what I want to tell you is that think of everything we just talked about today. It is so simple and straightforward. You probably got to the end of that audit and you were like, that's it? That's all I have to do for lead gen? Yes. That's all you have to do for lead gen. Lead generation is an extremely fixable problem. Most of the time when people are really struggling with lead generation, which trust me, I've seen this hundreds of times at this point, it comes down to a couple core things. They are just not showing up consistently enough, and they don't have any kind of infrastructure to actually pull in people who are interested. So people go to their profile, but there's not really any clear information there. They can't tell who they really work for. It's very broad and vague, or they don't have a great way to connect with them. These are very fixable issues. So please just hear me when I say that building a healthy lead gen ecosystem is absolutely possible and attainable for you, because at its core, it really just comes down to, are you getting in front of people, and do you have the infrastructure in place, like a strong profile, good call to actions to actually bring those people into your world? So if you are doing, like I said, at least a couple of active lead gen tasks and a couple of passive, you're going to be set. You don't need a big platform. You don't need a ton of followers at all. So this is just your reminder that sustainable leads are absolutely possible for you. Now, a couple of reminders that I want to leave you with. Number one, the next episode in this series is going to be about sustainable income. If you are interested in that, please make sure that you are following or subscribed, whatever platform you're using, because to tell you the truth, that is the episode that I am most excited for in this series. I have a really different approach as a coach and mentor than what you typically find in the online space because of the fact that I prioritize sustainability so much. So I'm going to talk to you about practical ways that you can actually ensure that your income is sustainable. So make sure you stick around to get that episode. And then lastly, if you would like support in starting and scaling the business of your absolute dreams, and you want support from somebody who has been there, done that, has got it figured out, and can help you understand how to build a business that truly works for you so you can build sustainable leads, sustainable income, and really have a strategy for getting your business where you want to go, this is almost your last chance to get in. Lucky day. Doors are going to be closing on Sunday, May 3rd. So cart open is only going to be from Monday, April 27th to Sunday, May 3rd. This is going to be my second to last round of Lucky Day for the year. So make sure you get in while you can, and send me a DM if you'd like to schedule a free consult call. We can chat through any questions you have about the program, working together, or starting your business. And you can send me a DM at shay.blanchard on Instagram. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. If you haven't already, as I am actively starting and growing this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would give me a rating on whatever platform you're using. If you would follow me, like the YouTube video, you already know all of the things to do. It means so much, truly, as I am getting this podcast off the ground. And I would love to hear your feedback as well. If you have topics you want me to talk about, I want this to be a free resource that really serves you and supports you in your journey as an entrepreneur. So please feel free to reach out on any social media platform and chat with me. I am here to support you and help you. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.